no scanning.
And it's certainly not how it ever should be.
Yeah,
No.
now I was gonna say I remember visiting Columbia when it was just freely open and on. I went back to Penn and it was closed for a while, and I think they just opened it back up because there were protests and things like that. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. Um,
If I'm
the
off
different,
campus, I have to scan my ID like 6 times to get to my room. Just
Yeah,
like,
I read this art. That's why my friend sent me this article about it. Who's still like, goes to Columbia and stuff, and seems well. It's funny that it was about they always had these sort of temporary tents outside of campus when they had closed the campus. Initially during COVID, and then obviously later in my last year. But now the infrastructure cements itself, and they've put these sort of seems like these permanent boxes on the inside of the campus, under the pretext of reducing the footprint of these tents, whatever it is. But yeah.
I wonder how long term that'll be. If it's just we're in like the moment where that is, and eventually it'll recede back, or if this is kind of sort of a permanent like this is where we are when it comes to colleges. But that's neither here nor there. Uh, Everyone, welcome. Oh, I'm sorry, we're having a conversation beforehand. The recording has started. Welcome to HW at Columbia panel. We've got Julien Roa and Skyler Calkins, who were HW 20 or 21?
20.
20. HW 20. Tyler Park, who's HW 25, fresh into it, right? They're gonna give us the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly about Columbia. They've been gracious enough to give us lend us their insights, their expertise. Um, you'll be able to talk to them on your own time. I know most of you are watching this via recording. That's what you tell me, so I'm just assuming that's what it is. In which case, at the end, I'll provide that information. With that being said, let's have the panelists introduce themselves, and I'll give you guys a question also in your add into your introduction. Why you agreed to do this panel? So if you can answer that question in addition to your introduction, I appreciate it. Whoever there's, we're not bashful around these parts, so whatever order you all establish you want to go with, I'm good with.
Sure. Okay. I'll start us off. Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Skyler. I graduated Harvard-Westlake in 2020, like Quasi said. And then I did the Trinity Columbia dual BA program, graduated from that in 2024. I'm currently in my first year of law school now. I agreed to this panel because I love Harvard-Westlake. I think the school is so incredible, and I really appreciate and enjoy giving back to the students so that you guys can hopefully have as good of an experience as I did.
Hi guys, my name is Tyler. I was in the class of 2025 at Harvard-Westlake, and I'm part of the class of 2029 in the School of Engineering and Applied Science at Columbia. I'm studying financial engineering, and I'm doing this call because of one, my fondness for Harvard-Westlake. Like Skylar said, it was a place of really fond memories. A lot of my greatest times were there, just academically, intellectually, and just socially as well. Just had a great time. And then two, with Mr. France, I had a great experience as well. I embarked on multiple entrepreneurship projects, and he was a very helpful figure to me, and he helped me get here where I am today. So I just want to give back a little bit to him and also to the students as well.
Yeah, hi. Well, obviously the same thing. I went to Harvard-Westlake. I graduated in 2020, and I did regular Columbia. I graduated in 2024, and I studied classics. Um, and Columbia would always come to New York, actually, quite conveniently. That's one of the nice things, is that they would have this annual sort of event, and it was always lovely to see sort of the administrators, other people you went to Harvard-Westlake with, and stuff like that. And in some ways, I feel very connected to Harvard-Westlake through the teachers I still talk to and things like that. But I wanted to maybe do something a bit more in the framework of HW Works and all that stuff, because I don't enough. So yeah.
Julien, you have umpteen people that probably want to speak with you. I have a ton of students and current alums in college who are either classics majors or thinking about classics, but are giving me I hate to say it, the classic Harvard-Westlake. I really love this, but I don't know if I can do it because it doesn't make any money.
Well, I have a lot to say about that, and I'd be happy to any of them. Tell
For
them.
sure. For sure. And I think for the first question, as we kick this off, a lot of it will be actually kind of maybe repeating information that you all just gave us, if that's okay, because we'll wrap it in a question. What is it that you majored in or majoring in? What school are you in or were you in? And why was Columbia the right choice for that?
Certainly, I'll go ahead and start us off with this one as well. I was, like I said, in the dual BA with Trinity College Dublin, so I applied directly to the program. And in my interview, I had a Columbia representative or person from the admissions office and a Trinity representative from the admissions office. So it was very much applying to both schools at the same time. And then they discussed my candidacy together. So through the program, I did my first 2 years at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, and then completed my Columbia time with another 2 years then. So it was 4 years in total, 2 and 2, but I have a BA from each school. My major was film and media studies at both schools. And then at Columbia, I additionally applied for and was accepted into the special concentration in business management. So generally a film and business background is what I'm working with here. Columbia, specifically the dual BA, was the right choice for me because I wanted to live in 2 major cities. I knew I wanted an international experience of some kind. So being able to extend that to be a 2 year program as opposed to 1 semester or 1 year, as is common with study abroad, was really important to me. And Dublin was sort of like a warm-up city for New York, especially coming from Los Angeles, where we have no public transportation that you're really taking. It was fun to get my footing and a good handle on that in Dublin before taking on the New York subway system.
Yeah, that's great reasoning. I'm actually shocked. I think I had you inundated at dinner at the HW New York event with a bunch of lawyers, and none of them were able to talk you out of it, huh?
No, of course not.
All right. Well, I tried. Don't say I didn't try. Tyler, Julien, who's up next?
You should keep the same order, maybe.
Same
Tyler.
order.
Why not?
Why
That
not?
works.
As I said before, I'm planning to study financial engineering. But what's great about Columbia is that you have until sophomore year to decide on what your major is. And I think the ability to explore, as well as have the option to learn from the best teachers, as well as the best professional programs in the world at Columbia really appealed to me. As somebody who was a polymath in high school, loved to do like reading, research on a more humanity side, as well as was really involved in entrepreneurship projects on the coding end as well. I really wanted to have a place where I could synthesize both skills and thrive in both environments. And I think in the C's program specifically, it enabled me to have opportunity to take more STEM-oriented classes, but also have the freedom through like the core curriculum to take classes like UW and other really nice classes I could take in the Columbia College as well. So being able to synthesize both passions and not having to choose just one and consolidate with one narrow path, I think really was an appealing factor for me. And also more broadly, as someone who wants to like pursue finance down the line, I think New York City is an amazing opportunity, and the value proposition of just being in New York City in and of itself is an amazing opportunity. So those are a couple of the reasons why I think Columbia was a great choice for me.
Tyler, why engineering instead of just being a finance major in the college?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of my friends, they're doing economics plus philosophy, and they're pursuing a career in finance that way. But a lot of the people I've talked to don't necessarily have to do a major in financial economics per se. Actually, one of the smartest seniors I've talked to, who's going to point 72 next year, she is a classics major actually, and she was able to, I guess, leverage her experience in classics and very, I guess, narrow research and kind of transition and use those skills in finance. I think like anyone could learn it. It's almost like separate from class in the sense, like economics could help you. But I think having an angle in a STEM field like engineering, for example, could like give you a framework of thinking that is unique and I think at the very basis, you need to have like ability to think granularly, and anyone can pursue it, I think, at Columbia. And finance is very open-ended. It's not just one major oriented. So that's why I think engineering was for me. It's just a passion I enjoyed. And I want to continue that framework of thought when I pursue finance in the future.
Julien?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had at the time of applying to college, I was very very kind of motivated, but very confused, and I was having a hard time orienting myself. And it was actually at the sort of advising of several of the deans at Harvard-Westlake that I landed on on Columbia or kind of U Chicago, or these kinds of schools with these applications.
Yeah.
Because I would talk to them about my personal statement that I was trying to write, and I was pulling out all these materials, and they had nothing to do with each other, and it was a complete, mess, and my mind was in a million places, and I needed something that would allow me to just sort of put all of that out there, have to tie it together in some ways, but really not have too much of a burden to do that. I think that's, you're finishing high school, you should have multiple things you're interested in. For me, I wanted to do classics in that sort of same spirit. Well, I mean, of course, I really liked the languages. I got to do some Greek at the end of Harvard-Westlake, which is quite, unless you're coming from, certain schools in the UK, pretty uncommon. And obviously I did Latin all the way through Harvard-Westlake, but I wanted to do every humanities field. I was interested in just everything. Foucault and psychoanalysis and all this stuff was going through my head. And classics is a very methodologically kind of rigorous field. It's really constructed by Germans and French people in the 19th century, but from that spurs sort of everything. And I really, wanted to keep doing languages. I wanted to do literary criticism. I wanted to do art history. I wanted to study manuscripts, and I was able to sort of do all of that and keep doing it.
So that's really interesting. And you said it was actually from guidance of the deans in a sense, because when I think, because you're right, rightfully so, University of Chicago, Columbia, I'll even put my alma mater, Penn, those are what's known as the vernacular as pre-professional, right? Like if I think those schools, I think Skyler and Tyler, right? Law, finance, right? They're gonna help you get jobs like in those fields, right?
Indeed.
Julien, you're classics though. You're a Renaissance man. You're a thinker.
Well,
You're
I mean, I think
why choose a school that's kind of sort of formulated for getting you a job in like a lucrative field?
I initially, I mean, the way that was the kind of well, I didn't necessarily want to go to Columbia at first when I was applying. I told myself I didn't have much of an interest in New York. I said all these kinds of things because I wanted to create this kind of illusion in my own head that indeed Columbia is a place that makes you, well, with the core curriculum and all that's sort of, I focused a lot on that side of stuff. Was not very pre-professionally inclined when I entered Columbia. Arguably, I'm still not, but it's. I think that's the great thing about Columbia. I think it's a balance that's shifting in ways maybe I might say I don't agree with. Something that there's a lot of debate around what universities are meant to do in the US still, and that's something I thought about a lot even when I was applying to college. And it was actually kind of the slowdown of COVID when I entered that made Columbia maybe more of an intellectual place than it would have otherwise been. It is there's no mistake that Columbia is an incredibly intellectual place, and the faculty is in some ways second to none. And you will find I mean, I stayed in the classics department my whole time there. I did research every summer, and so you can find this sort of a hamlet away from pre-professional life, which I in some ways wanted to, but I think it was always it was actually the kind of pre-professional nature of Columbia that gave me the sort of maybe subconscious or internal comfort that I could pursue whatever I wanted to, because at least all the sort of circumstances of Columbia would, the confluence of all this stuff would land me somewhere with a job and I'd be okay. And that, in many ways did become the case. So I think that's kind of, it actually gave me the sort of self-confidence to pursue what I wanted to. Whereas maybe being somewhere that was, trying to sort of say all the time that you should just study whatever you want and this and that, being around all these people who wanted to immediately go into consulting and finance, which is perfectly admirable, made me also think about, what I feel, relative to that. And so, yeah.
I see Skyler smiling. I'm loving that too, Julia. Like, it allowed me to study what I wanted to. And if worst comes to worst, I ended up with a job, right? A pretty decent job, right? That's about like I like that. Does which one of you Lions want to discuss the core curriculum for the people? Who wants to take that on?
I didn't actually have to do the entire core curriculum through GS, the School of General Studies, so I'm gonna abstain from this one.
Julien or Tyler?
To do it, maybe. No, it's really, it's people, if you end up going to Columbia, I don't know who I'm speaking to, but whoever the general audience is,
a bunch of parents and students who want to go to Columbia.
Well, there will be a common experience at Columbia of everybody complaining about the core curriculum. You're going to have classmates who won't read anything. And I'm sure that's gotten even worse with whatever summaries and this and that. But it is one of, I think, a very unique, at least in the American system, educational experience. There's a sort of moment in American education in 1973 at Brown when the open curriculum is created. And for me, this is a big turn in American education where students became customers and professors became competitors in a market to attract students. And that's, no critique to the open curriculum, but that's a dynamic change that didn't really exist before in a lot of education systems. Students were prescribed things, and prescription is something that's profoundly, kind of falling away in a lot of education in the U.S. And Columbia preserves it in a really sort of magistral, magnificent way. The core curriculum is taught by incredible professors. You read at a pace, if you should choose to actually, take it for what it is, that's, rapid. It's going to feel insufficient and all this stuff, but it's a really, sort of challenging experience. And it's fantastic to, even with the most disgruntled of classmates who hate it and this and that, and the most sort of overzealous classmates who are, a lot of the critique of the core curriculum is that, a lot of these texts have been pulled in by, a new kind of, neoconservative, neo-Catholic, neo-whatever, philosopher king class of people that think in this way and have misappropriated a lot of it in a lot of ways. But that's what's great about it, is it's really this kind of inflection point in your education that happens right at the beginning, sustains itself for 2 years. By the end of the 2 years, you're tired, you're done with it. These are year-long courses, which is uncommon to have in college, which is something I think people will miss dearly, especially, at Columbia or any school with a quarter system. A year-long course is something you should have when, even past 18 years old, and a lot of people don't have. So I think it's a relatively unique, singular educational experience that I hope, at least as of a couple of years ago, is still worth every moment of it.
Very well said. And as you were going into it, it kind of sort of transitions nicely into our next question. Let's talk about you guys' here, your classmates, the experience that you were in. Now, this question is always interesting. I've done this before, but it's interesting with Harvard-Westlake alums and students because you guys are coming from a super elite LA private school that's pretty diverse. So, in a lot of ways, like for a lot of colleges, and you may even go into spaces that are less diverse than the high school that you're coming from, which is ironic. That probably is not the case in New York or in Columbia, or maybe it's the same. Or maybe I'll just ask three people who went to Columbia, two who went to Columbia and one, what they thought about it. So I guess we've established an order. What was diversity like, Skyler? Diversity of thought, diversity demographically, diversity of experience. Talk to us about that at Columbia.
Yeah, certainly. Diversity of thought and experience, I thought were totally all over the board. It really didn't feel like I was in that different of a location that I had been at Harvard-Westlake, where you've got so many different, very, very bright minds around you. I felt very similarly at Columbia. I think you might get a broader skew than you would expect. Uh, but other than that, I really thought everyone brought something different to the school, and they did a really good job of making sure that every viewpoint and every opinion was incorporated. The film and media studies major in particular, I thought it was an okay job of that. It didn't stand out to me quite as much as the business concentration did, because when they're selecting for the business concentration, they want people that have had really unique experiences. I remember at a luncheon, they highlighted sort of the different work experiences that some people had or internships. And they brought up one, they mentioned mine, which was I'd worked at DreamWorks for a summer. And so they said we had a DreamWorks production assistant. And I was like, what? Who else in college has had that? So it was a little fun for me. But they do a really great job. I thought so.
Cool. Tyler, it's been a couple weeks. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll speak on my brief experience so far, but I think what really was the defining kind of moment for me in terms of understanding how diverse the campus was Club Fair. There are like hundreds of clubs. It's just one huge day on a Friday where there's hundreds of tables and thousands of people. And just going, there's a upperclassman who's really nice. You kind of introduced me to everybody. And there's every single niche and activity and interest were all on display. And I think that experience is like further been echoed by like the people I've met. Just like when I go to the cafeteria, there's so many interesting people, and I have conversations with people from all walks of life. I met someone who was in the army for a couple of years, for 10 years, who's in GS. I had a nice conversation with him. I think it's just really like nice to be able to be in a place where an ecosystem where there's so many different diverse opinions, voices, people of different demographics that you can just share opinions with like a common thread of like just being part of the Columbia environment. And what that does, I think it's like very intellectually stimulating being surrounded by people who are generally passionate about like certain things that you may not have like any experience with at all. And with like just my friends as well, it's been very like enjoyable to meet people of walks of life even more diverse than LA and like than Harvard-Westlake in a way, which is pretty crazy, but it's been very enjoyable for sure.
Yeah, I completely sort of second everything Skyler and Tyler have said. I'll mention two things that are maybe on the flip side of that of where there are kind of Columbia's diversity is maybe not laconic, but there are two experiences that I had that I think Columbia is incredibly metrics diverse. Every type of person, every combination of traits, characters will be there. That is the sort of what the admissions offices are very good at doing, and it creates an incredibly rich tapestry, and it's fantastic. There's two elements I think that still, this is not unique to Columbia at all, but maybe just, universities in general. There is a kind of New York is a place that is expensive. It's a place where students have a lot of freedom. And so there's a kind of self-sorting that will happen that works, not always fully against the kind of diversity there is, but people, there is a kind of general sort of sifting out that you see sometimes in what previous education students have had is often the easiest one, but it comes in all other forms as well. And so that's to say that all of the positive elements of how great a job Columbia does at bringing in all kinds of people does not erase the realities of young people living in a city, especially somewhere like New York. And then I think there's one other missing contingent at Columbia, which is probably similar to a lot of schools like it, but I just want to remark on it because I do think it's underlooked or under sort of, examined, is the college admissions process has become so competitive, and they're very good at it is sort of a requirement to be an excellent student who knows how to manage themselves and who's kind of very professional in some ways. Professional students, I honestly think is this area where Columbia and other schools like it excel at. And I've had this conversation with a lot of my professors. There used to be at some point a kind of bottom 20%, a sort of a bottom 15, bottom 20% that's, delinquent is a harsh way to put it, but maybe less professional in their studentship, which allows them to do incredible things in, artistic spheres, especially in terms of literature and creative endeavors. Columbia's very famous for its writers of the early 20th century, all this stuff. And that's not to say that that doesn't come out of Columbia anymore, but in some ways, a lot of schools like Columbia have sorted out the people of extraordinary talent, extraordinary talent. And I think that's just something to note for information that, in some ways I met people that were extraordinarily talented and I was incredibly satisfied with that. But you do feel it at certain points, when, especially in certain classes with professors who've been teaching at Columbia for 40 something years. And, they bring out these anecdotes of Freezy students. And it's just some of these things that people were doing are unimaginable because of the sort of externalities of being at Columbia, because of the, and yeah, that's all. Just to be on the
I could not agree more. That's what I tell you all. And again, we're on a call with 2 Columbia grads and a Columbia freshman. I don't even think it's just germane to Columbia for these types of schools now. And I was just talking with the Career Center directly at Berkeley. You almost have to know what it almost robs you of kind of sort of that intellectual academic curiosity that Julian's talking about. You almost have to know what it is that you want to do. And I'm not taking anything away from Skyler or Tyler, but they are your more traditional, pre-professional Ivy League students to me, right? Very smart, good grades, and it's like, I know I want to do this, and I'm going to do it, and I can show you how. But that's for any of these, and I talk about this throughout. We've got Cornell Wednesday. We've got a few more of the National Public Universities before I get to the liberal arts schools. It's one of those things. It's reality. I don't have to tell you all this at Harvard-Westlake for the parents and students that will be listening to this. But it's what Julien talks about is very real. Like, there is your quote unquote bottom 20% now is, they aren't like the artistic types that don't have a care for school and are just whose outlet might be more towards something that's less straightforward. It's very much like hey, I've got a really good GPA and I'm really focused also. It's just that I'm not where other students are, and it's a different dynamic. Let's talk about, Tyler, for this question. The first part of this question you won't be able to answer because you just started. The second part you'll probably be able to answer more clearly than Skyler and Julien because you'll just remember it. So, Skyler and Julien, your summers at Columbia and what they look like.
Sure, summers. Actually, I just want to jump in on that last point. I did
Go
not
ahead.
That I wanted to pursue law until my junior or even my senior year of college. So I film major. What am I doing?
Yourself. Don't let me speak for you. You tell your story for sure. Go ahead.
I'm not sure that I went into it thinking, here's my pre-professional plan. I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. So I sort of found my way there. So even if you're going into it knowing what you want to do, like Tyler, or if you went into it knowing that you didn't want to do the pre-professional program and follow more of a Julien path, there's also option 3, which is go in not really knowing and then come out maybe doing this, which would be me. So I'm happy to speak to anyone who's interested in law school. But back to your question about summers. My sophomore year, I mentioned I was a production assistant for DreamWorks in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
And then my junior year, I actually worked at a casino. I was a marketing intern
Ooh,
at Bally's in
nice.
Atlantic City, New Jersey. Two very different experiences, and you'll notice that neither of these relate to the fact that I'm currently pursuing law. So, and obviously this is just in my experience, but do not worry if your summer internships or employment are not exactly what you want to do. I think for finance, that might be a little different. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely listen to your career advisor or your academic advisor. But for me, it was what I wanted to do didn't need to be coming through in my summer programs. I had some more room and flexibility to do some fun things. And then later on, now I'm doing law and it's totally fine. Because I think part of the beauty of Harvard-Westlake and Columbia, or even just Harvard-Westlake on its own, is that you'll probably be just fine. So do take a breath. Don't stress out too much. It's all going to be okay.
That's going to be question 5. Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that I knew exactly what I wanted to do every summer at Columbia, I think from the first few weeks. And so I did research with professors, and in my first year summer, I did research with a professor. In my second year summer on manuscripts, which was I worked a lot on medieval manuscripts. And then second year summer, I did the same thing with the same professor, but a different project. And then third summer, junior year summer, I did research for my thesis, but I wrote a paper during that time. And this is one thing is, as much as I may lament the kind of machine that Columbia has become of, Columbia is hospitals and apartment buildings, and the real financial heart of Columbia is this enormous thing that most undergraduates, might not even remark on, or you'll see it when you're there. Really, Columbia is the biggest private landlord in Columbia, in New York City or in Manhattan. And so it's this huge apparatus, which means that no matter what they tell you, they are very flush with money. And every summer, I was given more money than anybody should have approved to live around campus, go to the library every day, go to archives at the Morgan Library. I worked in those summers as a supplement to that. I also worked at the Columbia Rare Books and Manuscripts Library. So it's a big institution, and it gives you things that maybe, I don't know, smaller colleges might not. And so, yeah, I think it's a kind of freedom, that you'll know in university that you'll probably never know again. Really, yeah, if you want to do that, it's there, and it's fantastic.
Cool. That's the varied experiences, internships. Skyler, Julien did research. Now, part 2 of this question will require Skyler and Julien to go back in their memory bank.
Hmm.
And Tyler, it'll be a little fresher for yours. Same question, except what did you do in your summers after your sophomore and junior years at Harvard-Westlake? The summers leading into Columbia admission, in other words. What did you do those summers? Tyler, you lead off this one. This is
Okay,
fresh in
great.
your memory, man.
After my sophomore and junior year, I think so. It's like the summer leading up to my junior year, and then my summer leading up to my senior year, right?
You got it. You got it.
I think for the summer leading up to my junior year, I actually had the opportunity to intern at Gideon Strategic Partners. It's a wealth management boutique firm, thanks to somebody over here, Mr. France. It was just a
Oh,
very impromptu, late, just wanted to do an internship, get myself busy with something, internship, and that really taught me like a lot about like office work, I guess protocol for 9 to 5 job, as well as I guess being exposed to other students who are pursuing finance across the United States, from students going to Wharton and Harvard and also Columbia. I guess that was really a stimulating experience that taught me I wanted to be in that environment like later, and I could see myself pursuing a career in there. And then for this experience, before my senior year. I think what did I do? I'm not exactly sure what I think it was more a relaxing year. But just to preface, like to begin my senior year, obviously I had essays and stuff. So I think I worked extensively on those, but I also engaged in some research that I had just shelved and didn't have time to finish. And I just decided to pursue that, which is very tangential and something completely separate from the other internships experiences I was doing. Uh, I think is much more relaxed. I wasn't doing anything pretty professional. It was just more focusing on writing college essays as well as just reading and getting this research done.
But Tyler, I was told that you had to do super duper prestigious, impressive stuff in the summer to get into Columbia. You mean you didn't do much junior year and you still got in? How is that possible?
So I didn't do any competition. So I guess like for a high school student, like at least in my experience, a lot of people say, oh, you need to win this competition to prove that you're good in math so that the math program will like you at Columbia. It's like a way for them to tell how intellectual you are or how competent you are for this program. And for me, again, like I was going into college just rather than trying to fit my narrative and what I did in high school into a box and kind of push that into the admissions office and make that a coherent story. I kind of just went with the skills and like the things I was actually passionate about. I think like Julian and Skyler could speak to this as well as like my peers as well. I think the most like successful story and like I guess the successful outcome is not like the college, but the college that picks you for like your passions as you are. And I think like Columbia was a perfect spot. And this going back to the earlier question because I didn't have everything figured out. Like I was passionate about multiple things and that interdisciplinary approach to like how I was doing things appealed to Columbia as a missions, I guess. And yeah, so here I am now. Even though I didn't win like a national competition, like I wasn't the best at coding or computer science or math. And even in the research, like I failed a couple times and it took me a long time to my gears, but I think as long as you're passionate about things and put the time, it'll show for itself. And I think trying to force yourself to earn some accolade or something that you can put on the wall won't service you too much good if it's not something you're passionate about.
Two things that we're trying to push across. We're trying to, really bring to the forefront the idea that you all can pursue your passions without worrying about, success or failure. And then particularly with me and Mr. Levin, like we're encouraging failure because once you fail and you realize that, you know, that's there's more than just that, it makes it easier to be more adventurous. It makes it easier to take more chances, and that, of course, is when greatness happens. Skyler, Julien, do you two old fogies remember what you did after your sophomore and junior years in high school many moons ago?
Well, lucky for you, I was able to dig up my old resume that I still have on the computer. So
There it is. We like that.
looking at my
We
bullet
like
points.
that, Skyler.
But I think I do want to echo what Tyler said. I think he's put it very well that it doesn't matter if you, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter actually, but you don't need to strive to have so many awards. I think the only award that I had from my time in high school was an honorable mention for a Mandarin essay I submitted, and I'm not even sure how much effort I put into that Mandarin essay. So by no means there were no science awards or engineering competitions that I was entering. Instead, I was doing a lot of summer programs. So I was at Duke one summer studying business. This was going into my, I guess, into my senior year, so just after my junior year. The year before that, I did a summer film program at Chapman. So two very different interests. And I guess they did both end up coming to fruition through what I ended up studying, but that wasn't the plan at the time. It was sort of my interests are film and my interests are business and sort of how do I apply the film in the business industry. So that's how those happened.
I don't want to do any undue influencing, Skyler, but for the unofficial, as the unofficial spokesperson of JD of America, you may want to think about that at Emory also, if possible. I feel it. Julie, can you remember back that far? Sophomore, junior year, Harvard-Westlake, the summers?
I'm digging through my memory a bit. I think after my sophomore year, I was like doing something with the city of LA. Or not even. There's a house in a park called the Hollyhock House. That's a Frank Lloyd Wright house that like the community didn't want to give money to renovate it, and I think I did some like you know working for like petition signing and grant writing after my sophomore year, but that was very brief. That was like a month. That was not very long. I think I was just playing sports. I was playing lacrosse, and then after my junior year, well, aside of course from winning every award under the sun and just
Yeah.
no, I would.
Finally. Oh, you're telling fibs too, Julien. Now all
I
it is
know,
just
sorry, yeah.
lying about all the awards and prestigious internships and foundations that you founded that
Yeah,
were necessary to get into schools like Columbia. You three are telling me that that's not the case. I've tough for me to believe.
no, you can. I mean, yeah, I think I was working informally for a classics professor at UCLA who became like a very good friend and mentor, and he wrote me a rec, which I think was because I was working for him doing my own little project that he was supervising, but really I was like clearing out. There's a professor at UCLA at the time that I was there who had just passed away, and she had this office full of books and just sort of cataloging all her things, doing little bits and pieces, just kind of just hanging out with this guy, honestly, for lots of the summer, which was just something I came about at the suggestion of one of my Latin teachers, Mr. Wallerot, Dr. Wallerot, who sort of put me in contact with this professor he had in grad school a long time ago. So yeah, very insubstantial in its own way, but became substantial, or like it's a college application, and I think you can, really, construct, more infrastructure, not more infrastructure than there is, but like it's more so obviously about how you're thinking about what you've done than necessarily, I think it's a very banal awards, all, it's all very banal, and that, you know, doesn't resonate in some ways with college admission officers. I think I remember, getting this like wonderful letter from one of the like, I think, I don't know if it's like region based, or the person who was in charge of the region, and like I was writing nonsense all over, not nonsense, very, I worked hard on it, but it was like very scatterbrained, and I think that was, yeah, just, somehow more engaging than the kind of flatness of awards and things like that, especially when metrics become more and more kind of complicated.
Yeah.
College admissions.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to end with this question. Again, I thank you all for your time, your expertise, your insight into Columbia, and really education and careers at large. It's exactly why I do this. I want you to think about your Harvard-Westlake experience and your Columbia experience, particularly for Julien and Skyler, how it impacted where you are now. And then Tyler, you can probably speak more to your Harvard-Westlake experience and your Columbia experience, but if you want to add your 3 weeks or 4 weeks in Columbia into it now, you can do it too. So I guess we had a Skyler, Tyler, Julien order, and so that's how we'll end this call.
Certainly. I think it's funny seeing which one gets recognized. In LA, I get more heads turning for my Harvard-Westlake experience, whereas in a lot of, the rest of the country, I get more heads turning for Columbia, where they might not necessarily know what Harvard-Westlake is. But even despite that, I would say that it's hard. I think Harvard-Westlake, though, I don't think Columbia prepared me as much as Harvard-Westlake did for law school, just in terms of academic rigor and the workload alone. Harvard-Westlake really taught me from a young age, you have to get your stuff done and you have to be able to manage it, which is why even in my first semester of 1L, I'm happy to be here and I'm not stressed about my contracts and my torts reading that are waiting for me on the other end of this call. Columbia does, of course, help prepare you. They have a lot of really great career resources. They have career counselors, they have grad school counselors, and an online job portal, which I didn't utilize, but maybe Julien could speak differently. And I'm sure Tyler's already started prodding around, but that's what I would say.
Tyler, you're up.
Great. I think to echo what Skyler said, I think like Harvard-Westlake really does have a really powerful name. Like when I talk about where I'm from, like I say I'm from LA, a lot of people like instantly kind of know that Harvard-Westlake is one of the, I guess, feeder schools and one of the most top prestigious schools in terms of high schools. And they instantly recognize it, which is a plus and a minus at the same time. But I think in terms of preparation, like putting social things aside, like Harvard-Westlake definitely prepared me for being at Columbia. It's almost uh, trained me and fine-tunes me as a machine for studying in a sense. Like I think there's an expectation with Harvard-Westlake with all the classes, and every single class really does prepare you. And specifically on the more STEM side, I think all the classes I'm taking now are kind of Harvard-Westlake level classes for at least for in senior and junior year. So it's really almost like repeat classes in a sense that is a little bit more difficult. But I will say like what the main difference, at least for me, has been so far in the first 3 weeks is there's a lot more pressure on myself as like an adult now to really get my schedule in check and really make sure that I'm on top of everything in terms of homework, learning the material myself because the classes could be pretty large sometimes and the professors may not teach everything to the extent that Harvard-Westlake professors do or teachers do with a smaller class. So it's easy to get lost and in the crowd, but I think in terms of coursework itself, like Harvard-Westlake has definitely prepared me to do well. I think that training has really been, I guess, formative as well as a useful boost to my experience so far at Columbia.
Julien, you close us out.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I won't speak more about the undeniable name recognition of Harvard-Westlake and Columbia everywhere. That's served me very well. I couldn't be happier with it, but definitely Harvard-Westlake, I think, prepared me to get what I wanted out of Columbia in the sense that I had very kind of attentive teachers at Harvard-Westlake who were receptive to where I had certain interests and would pull that thread a little bit and really developed like intellectually as a student at Harvard-Westlake, you get a kind of development that you expect to have in university that most high schoolers don't have. So right away at Columbia, it became a lot easier to integrate myself into the faculties and just sort of get what I was interested in out of Columbia, find the right communities, find the right places, know how to sort of approach administration, but also informal personal conversations with professors and things like that, which are very intimidating at first, but much less so coming from Harvard-Westlake. And then, yeah, I mean, I got my job that I'm living in France right now. Well, my dad is French, so I've moved to France, and I got my job in Paris through sort of a friend at Columbia who's a year older, who sort of I reached out to and sort of passed this job on to me. And even once, like I can only speak a little bit to the. I mean, it's probably not of interest to that many people, but being abroad after Columbia or living in another country. Like I don't live in New York like most of my friends do, et cetera, where the sort of advantages of Columbia is very palpable. But in Paris, there's a beautiful building that Columbia owns, a center that they run that I saw the president of Columbia speak there, and they have all kinds of wonderful things where you can meet other Columbia alumni. It's very generally very well regarded school in Europe. I'm kind of interested in basically like competition law, that's a very big thing in Europe and also, in the US with the FTC and all that. And I feel that, yeah, I mean, really through Columbia, there's a huge sort of thrust from alumni and just what exists there. I mean, Lena Khan is teaching at Columbia Law School. These are huge things that are afforded to you because of Columbia. And in Europe, there are a lot of people who study at Columbia, come back to Europe. I don't know. It served me very well on that front. And yeah, just learning how to navigate informal relationships and things like that has, even though I was not professionally focused whatsoever in my time at Columbia, as you said, I still was able to kind of stumble into something that's allowed me to, live in this other place where, now I can think about if I want to pursue studies here or pursue it elsewhere. And either way, I have support from my university in the US, which is really, kind of uncommon. So that's cool. And yeah.
It is 3 o'clock. Julien, it's got 3 o'clock PST, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then what is it, 9 or 10 where you are, Julien, in France?
It is 12.
12, geez.
Nah,
12.
don't worry. I've done it for the love of Harvard-Westlake, of course.
And that came across in this call really from all three of you. Thank you so much. Parents, students, this will be on the HW Works YouTube channel. It'll also be in the resources section of the platform. Tyler, Skyler, and Julien have their contact information. I'd be happy to share it with you upon request. They're also on the platform where you can message them. Otherwise, you all get some shut-eye, sit some or more time studying, eat some dinner, take a break. You've done your civic duty for the day. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.